introducing our guest. We have a panel discussion. We're going to be having a conversation about heritage, legacy, and your culture, what it means to be an Australian Nigerian. And we do have some very young, special people in our midst.
That's right.
That we are going to be introducing.
Yes.
I will introduce the two guests that are going to be with us virtually. That is Ezi Magbebo and Victory Undukwe. All right? And now I'm going to introduce the panelists. We have Peggy Gusa.
Come on, ladies and gentlemen, Peggy, a round of applause for her. She comes in.
On Peggy.
Wow, she's the African DJ, music, African queen. Aha. Wow, thank you so much, Peggy. Please have a seat. Wait, so let the music finish first. Aha. You make it sound like she's lonely at the top. Please, she's not lonely. She's not lonely. Are you lonely? Yes, we'd love to see your African dance. Come on, yes. She is truly showing that. I can see you. That's lovely. I love that. Awesome. All right, the next person that we'll be calling with me.
Thank you very much, Peggy, for that dance. We'll have a dance-off after, right? I got you, girl. The next person we will be inviting is Dami Okedara. Put your hands together for Dami.
Come on. This man is fire. Demi, you need to step up your dance move. I can tell you Peggy is already up there, yeah? So you need to, we'll have to verify that later.
How about a panelist dance-off after? A panelist dance-off.
Panel dance-off?
Yeah.
I'll say that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
we can do that.
Dance for us. All right, now we're going to introduce the two people who will be handling this session. We have Sarah and Bradley. Put your hands together for our own Sarah and Bradley. Thank you.
Sarah and Bradley, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for both of them. Thank you so much. We'll be handing over to you.
Hello, everyone. Everyone's sleeping today, huh? Hello, everyone. Come on, give me more than that. Where's everyone, huh? Hello, everyone. It's all right.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Akamo, and I'm one of your co-facilitators for this evening's panel discussion. And can we just give our young people a round of applause before we commence? Thank you. Just a little bit of a shuffle, and then we'll get started. Well, without any further ado, you have met Bradley, my co-facilitator, and he's quite a champion at getting us all going. But I'd like to introduce to you Peggy Gusa, who is a lawyer by profession. She's based in Melbourne, and she was born in Lagos, but grew up in London and Melbourne after, having moved here to Melbourne at just age 16 with her family. Peggy's work focuses on litigation in the civil, commercial, and public interest areas, and she recently completed a year as an associate to the Honourable Justice Bromberg of the Federal Court of Australia. Remarkable. Peggy co-founded the African Australian Legal Network in 2018, and she's passionate about supporting young people in the legal profession and beyond. And over to you, Bradley.
Let me introduce you Dami Okedara. He is a young entrepreneur. He's also a small business startup, marketing and sales veteran. He founded a little agency called Clientele Boosters, which works with celebrities, and he's the co-owner of Culture Club Australia, which is an Afrobeats event created for the community by the community, merging Afrobeats and the luxury together with dance. He's also the founder of a growing Gen Z little production company called Quasar Central, which has amassed around over 100 million views online, which is a pretty cool achievement. But yeah, thank you for joining us, you two.
As we've earlier stated, we have Ezi Magbega who'll be joining us virtually. Ezi probably needs no introduction because she's an Australian professional basketball player, and she currently plays for Seattle Storm in the Women's National Basketball Association across in the US, and she plays as well for Sopron Basket of the EuroLeague Women and the Hungarian Women's Basketball League. Ezzy was a member of the Australian women's basketball team, the Opals, and represented Australia with the Opals at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics.
And finally, Victory Nukdoe, sorry. He is an actor who has been trained since 2016. He did a number of plays, including Lobby Hero, the critically acclaimed, also Mr. Burns. More recently, he actually was in the Australian tour of the musical Hamilton, where he starred as Marquis de Flaherty and Thomas Jefferson. This role actually led him to be in Vogue Australia and the Sunday Morning Herald, and as well as other publications, which is also a great achievement.
So we have a set of questions to ask our young panelists. Peggy, I might start with you. Please tell us about your journey and experiences as a second-generation Nigerian in Australia.
Thanks so much. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So good evening, everyone. It's such an honor to be here. My name is Peggy, and I also want to acknowledge the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional owners of the land on which this city hall is located. I want to pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and their up-and-coming leaders and community members, and extend that acknowledgement to any First Nations people in the room today. As was mentioned before, I was born in Lagos, in Ikoyi. And I lived there for the first 3 years of my life, and then I went to England with my family. Grew up in England from 3 to 16, and then moved to Australia when I was 16, about 12 years ago. So you know how old I am. And I very much identify as a Nigerian and as a British person and as an Australian. All three of those nations kind of make up my identity, but I feel a particular special connection to Nigeria and to my Tiv and Yoruba heritages. My mum is Yoruba and my dad's Tiv. And I think it's something that you kind of experience in different areas of your life. And I think some of the questions we're going to talk about tonight will touch on the question of how you celebrate your Nigerian heritage. But certainly in Australia especially, we look different to the average Australian. And I always find that I feel such a connection to other Nigerians, not necessarily based on entirely the same experiences, because some of us left Nigeria very young, like me, when I was 3, but there's a shared cultural spirit, if you like, that we share, whether it's through the music, the food, attitudes and values, and so I feel so particularly honored to be able to talk amongst my compatriots, so thanks for having me.
Now on to Dami. Could you please tell us about your journey as well as a second-generation Nigerian in Australia?
Yep, can everyone hear me? Yep. Well, yeah, it's a blessing to be Nigerian, first and foremost. I was born in Fiji, and my parents brought me to Australia in 2000. We then bounced around between Melbourne and Colac and Ballarat, where my brother was born. By the time we came back to Melbourne, I was around 7 to 8 years old, grew up in the western suburbs, and then was able to start building out different businesses from 19 onwards. It's been a very fun journey. I think Nigerians are the best Africans in business. I think many people would agree. But it's been a journey, a lot of learning, a lot of self-reflection, and I'm really excited to see over the next 5, 10, 20 years how we as Nigerians are able to build more into our communities and give more opportunities to the next generation. And I think we're starting to see that change with people like Ezzy and Peggy and various people involved. And I'm really excited to be a part of that.
And the next question is the same question, but will be answered by Victory. So Victory, could you tell us about your journey and experiences as a second-generation Nigerian in Australia?
Oh, I think persistence, tenacity. The Nigerian tenacity is absolutely immutable, and everybody knows about it. Sometimes you be talking to friends and you say that you're Nigerian, and they mention how successful Nigerians are. I mean, it's even in the statistics. Nigerian immigrants do well here in the United States and all around the world, just because of our work ethic and our tenacity. And I think that is definitely something that can be passed on and that should continue.
Okay, thank you, and apologies as occurs at times with technical issues. Looks like we're experiencing one of those, but doesn't take away from the importance of this discussion. So please pay attention still. And Brad, over to you.
Sweet. Who here is planning to start a business? Real quick, I just want to gauge. Cool. So I'm going to ask a question to Tommy about businesses, right? So as a startup, creator of businesses, you must have faced many challenges in the process of coming across them, yeah? So what kind of challenges did you face, and then how did you overcome them?
Yeah, there's definitely many challenges that are faced anytime you're trying to start anything, whether that is a business, whether that's a venture, whether that's a new habit. And some of the ventures I've been involved in are no different. Some of the things I definitely faced when I was starting, especially as a teenager, was the fact that I was a teenager, let alone, an African teenager, and I've never been one. My parents brought me up to never blame where I'm from as an excuse, and that really was great. It empowered me to persist. But definitely there was times when I was 19 where I would, be pitching to someone and they might not shake my hand after, a 30-minute demonstration, or there was times when, a client would maybe not pay me. And those situations built a lot of character and it built strength. And what I've realized is the more you grow, the greater the problems that you have to deal with, but you're also a greater person to deal with them. So yeah, I think being able to persist, but persist with, intelligence and understanding that, the greater the problem, the greater the person you probably are, having certain reframes are going to give you that conviction to stay in the game long enough.
And Peggy, the next question we have for you is, has your cultural and family values impacted who you are and your identity?
That's a great question, thanks. I think it definitely has. For me, as a lawyer, I think that's not a particularly unusual thing for Nigerians to do. I'm certainly not the first Nigerian lawyer, and I won't be the last. But for me, Nigerian cultures and Nigerian values have influenced what I do, in the sense that I agree with what Victory said and what Dami has said as well about persistence and tenacity. And that's something that I've definitely gotten from my parents, and something that I think is a really big part of who we are as Nigerians is you might get knocked down, but you stand back up and you try again. But in the first place, believing that you can pretty much do anything. I think Nigerians, I'm yet to meet a Nigerian who's not fairly confident. We're a pretty confident bunch. And I think that's a really great asset, because it means that you might put yourself out there for an opportunity that you might not necessarily think you are, the best person for it, but you know that you have something to offer, and you also know that you're very willing to put the work in to achieve what you need to in that space, and that confidence and that tenacity and that willingness to give something a go, and not be discouraged by it not happening exactly as you wanted to the first time. That's something that I really value, and it's something I definitely got from my parents and my broader community. But also empathy, and I think empathy is a really key thing in my line of work with clients who are often going through extremely stressful situations. Although I work in commercial law, the stakes are very high, and it can still be very emotional. It's certainly not an emotionless area of law, and being able to be empathetic towards what someone's going through and understanding that this is a really stressful moment for them. How can I best help them? And how can I try and put myself in their position to think about what they might need? And for me, empathy is also something that I associate with Nigerian values as well, in terms of Nigeria is such a diverse country, as Dr. Yusuf was saying earlier, and we all know the various ethnic groups, the various tribes, and the sub-ethnic groups within our tribes. To build this thing that we call Nigeria, we have to be empathetic towards one another and understand that we're coming from different perspectives, different religions, different culture. The way we practice our cultures are different, but we have that mutual respect for one another, and that's why we're able to have this wonderful, diverse nation and diaspora all around the world of Nigerians. And so that's something I think that takes empathy, and it's something I try and carry into my work and my life as well.
Thank you. So, also to Dami, your family values and your cultural heritage, how's that influenced you as well?
Family values and cultural heritage. Being a Niger boy has allowed me to really carry certain types of creativity into different ventures. An example being with Kwasa Central, which is Australia's leading Gen Z production company, the fastest growing in Australia. In February, we did a video called Do All Black People Think the Same? So we got them on a line. We had 6 to 7 different questions, such as, do you get annoyed when people try to touch your hair? 3, 2, 1. And there was a disagree line and an agree line, and you were able to see the spread of different ideas and opinions. And I think just having that confidence, as Peggy said, coming from your family, knowing that you have to stand for something, allowed me to have the conviction to go to Sydney, to go to another venue, to go to Manly, which is, not a very multicultural area, and be able to gain the respect of, Australian venue owners that are going to say, you know what, we're going to open up your venue all day just for you. Instead of you having to pay a heinous fee, I understand that Melbourne really liked what you did, so we can make something work here that's going to make sense. That same conviction from do all black people think the same, do all Asian, do all etc., led us to doing an even more interesting episode in Gold Coast called, LGBTQI plus versus Christians. So having the Australians and even people in Gold Coast give us that responsibility to carry that out correctly and in an interesting manner, coming from a Nigerian family, I'm Christian, but whether coming from a faith-based background or not, being able to have a diplomatic conversation that was 1 hour long, where the videographer's sleeping because he's nervous, but he also doesn't want to, interrupt anyone. Having that kind of family home where, you stand for what you believe in, but you can have great conversations with people, I can't attribute that to anything else but, where I'm from and the values that I have, for sure.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Dami. And I'm just going to check with our tech in the back whether we're good to go. If you could just give me a thumbs up. Okay. So the next question we have is for Ezzy, and it's the same question. Has your cultural and family values impacted who you are and your identity?
I think everyone's experiences are different, obviously. I think for me, in the field that I'm in, I grew up being the only black woman in the room. I think especially at a young age, that's quite intimidating. But for me now, it's just empowering, and it is powerful, and it makes a statement. And I think just like the other women on this panel, they've probably been in the same situation before, but you kind of just embrace that, and I am learning to embrace that now. And going forward, I think it just creates that role model aspect for people kind of watching us and wanting to be in the field that we're in. And going forward, I definitely know we won't be the only ones in the room. But I think that comes from our parents as well, and just kind of instilling that in us that, we're meant to be there, and we've worked hard to be where we are. So kind of just, when you get there, be where your feet are and embrace that. But yeah, that's, I guess, my experience growing up.
Thank you for that. And Peggy, we're over to you with the next question. Have you been a part of any initiative that has effectively helped or promoted your heritage and can help others as Nigerians in Australia?
Yes. So back in 2018, a bunch of African Australian lawyers, we got together to form the African Australian Legal Network. So at the time, I say lawyers, at the time I was a law student and so was my best friend who was one of the co-founders. But we did it as an initiative with some other people, barrister Matthew Albert and other lawyers. And we decided that there are so many African Australians wanting to study law or who are in the legal profession and wanting to network, wanting to learn, wanting to meet people and learn what the options are out there. As you can imagine, law is such a diverse field in terms of what you can specialize in. And we began to run networking events where people can meet other young African Australian law students and lawyers, and also other professionals within the legal profession who are already quite well established, who aren't necessarily African. And we've had really successful events in connecting people. And we started to expand that out to mentorship opportunities and internships. And the internships have been a really, really exciting part of the network because we've had people be put into placements at, for example, the Department of Premier and Cabinet have taken a few of our interns, and Victoria Legal Aid. And these have been intern experiences which have gone over 1 or 2 months and then have often converted into a permanent placement as a team member. And it's just been a fantastic opportunity to see people gain confidence with understanding what they might want to do in the law, but also in their own abilities and be able to mentor others through the opportunities we've been able to provide. And even things like working on people's soft skills, interviewing skills. We've also held CV and cover letter workshops where we sit with law students and go through their CV, go through their cover letters, help them apply for these quite competitive clerkship programs and things like that. And it's been really, really rewarding to you think it's something so small, it's an hour of your time, but that investment actually pays so much dividends in that person's journey in the profession and in their life more broadly. And we're continuing to run those programs and really excited. And if there are any young people here today who are interested in the law, even if you're in high school and it's a very vague interest, or you've already begun that journey, definitely reach out to me because I'd love to connect you in with our broader community of Africans in the law, but also just people in the law. There's so much goodwill from whether it's the Victorian government or businesses who run internships or law firms. There's so much goodwill towards our community, and definitely people will make time to have coffee with you and to talk to you about their journey. And also to help you succeed. And that's been something that's been so beautiful to see through the African Australian Legal Network, the connections we're making within community, but also with the broader community.
Thank you for that, Peggy. So any young people interested in law, make sure you talk to her after this so you can get there, right? Sweet. So, we asked a question to Victory, as you know he's been traveling across Australia. How does he stay connected to his Nigerian roots? So eyes up onto the screen, please.
Oh man, that's easy. That's easy. I go home, I get my mom to cook me some moi moi, some jollof rice, some okra soup, you know? Oh man, yeah. It's I'm really grateful for my parents for that, you know, to keep me connected to my culture. I haven't had the chance to go home frequently, but I mean, I do hope to do that soon. But yes, you know, definitely my parents helped me a lot to do that.
Yes, give it up for all the Nigerian parents.
Really.
And the next one, we're going to turn to the screens as well, because we've asked a question of Ezzy. And the question was, who is a Nigerian that has inspired you and why?
Honestly, my mum and dad. I think I've looked up to them a lot, just in the way that they have, worked to get where they are, but also to help us get to where we are today. And so, whenever you're going through the motions, you kind of just realize, like, hey, my parents came here, on their own at a young age with a few, friends here, but just ultimately did it on their own. I think in my sporting world, I look up to Nneka Agwumike, who is Nigerian American, and she definitely just, epitomizes what a Nigerian is, what she stands for, what she does in the basketball world, but also outside of that as well. And I think it's something that I'm very, very grateful to be able to be exposed to every day. And so I think, it's just nice to be able to be exposed to that on a daily basis.
Once again, give it up for the Nigerian parents who are inspiring this next generation. And we're coming to the end, so if we could continue to maintain your attention, that would be great. But the last question that we have as we wrap up our session is for you, Peggy. I'd like to ask you, as a professional lawyer now, tell us about the type of legacy you want to leave the generation after you as a successful person of Nigerian migrant parentage.
Yeah, I definitely love the emphasis on parents, because most of us who are growing up here in Australia as Nigerians, our parents have done an incredible journey to get to where they are. That pretty much applies to every Nigerian Australian. It's so far away. I think when we first told my grandpa that we were coming to Australia and he was in Lagos, he was like, oh, wow, I'll never visit you. You're going to have to come and visit me in Nigeria, because that is so far away. And it really is, but they've managed to lay roots, and we're thriving as a community. I think the legacy I would love to be a part of is just continuing to have that community focus that we have, and never wanting to, you can be the first, but you shouldn't be the last, and always having that mentality of when you get somewhere, turning around and helping others to come and join you. I never, it might be the case that sometimes you're the only woman in the room, or you're the only a person of color, but that to me is not, that's not a good thing. And if you get somewhere and you get to a space, creating space for others who are from a marginalized or minority background is so key. And that's definitely part of the legacy I want to leave, is one of inclusion. And that applies to, whether it's our attitudes towards First Nation people and respecting the role that they have in our country and in their own self-determination, but also our role in the broader Australian community. There are so many different ways in which you might be marginalized, and that might not necessarily just be cultural. That could be in terms of your religion, in terms of your sexuality, your gender identity. To me, that's all part of having a legacy of inclusion and community focus. And as we go on as a Nigerian community, and we start to have children in this country and they have children, what they associate with their Nigerian heritage, I want that to be a feeling of pride in who they are, but also all aspects of who they are. And I think that's something that I would love to be a part of that legacy.
Sweet. And also to Dami, as a successful young person here, what's the legacy you're going to leave behind?
The legacy I can leave behind? I'm 23, so honestly, I think I'm still figuring that out. However, and my mom has heard me say this multiple times, I was telling Peggy this, I want a minimum of 5 kids when I am ready to, get married and stuff. So at this stage, when it comes to legacy, I just want to make sure that I can be part of the Australian progression and letting more Nigerians and just Africans as a whole have the opportunity to create really cool things. I'm super intentional these days about getting particularly Nigerian, West African people involved, whether it's in culture, which is an Afrobeats event. We play a lot of Afrobeats music all the time. We have like fashion contests for the best dressed at our events. And a lot of times people will come in their authentic cultural clothing, and it's beautiful to have an event once every 2 or 3 months where people are coming in their Indian, Nigerian clothing is so fantastic to see in St. Kilda or in Melbourne. And then bringing it to the production side, having the ability to project, you know, various Nigerians, which I think their parents might even be here, that have been seen by, you know, millions of people around the world, is a fantastic thing to be a part of. So, you know, when it comes to legacy, I want to be part of that progression to see more Nigerians in positions of not just power, but creativity and authenticity. So hopefully I can be a bridge for that into the future.
Wow, I think that's what I'm left with. Listening to you young people, my first thoughts are the future is bright, and I'm so proud to be a part of the Nigerian community myself here in Australia, and listening to you, Dami, you, Peggy, and Victory, and Ezzy through virtual as well. I just think we have raised a good generation. So first of all, to thank the parents who have led the way. But as we look now to the future, yes, round of applause for all the parents who have made the way. But next up, we know that this next generation, they are definitely trailblazers. They're setting the pace. And for me as a parent of young children, I'm so glad that you guys are setting the pace, but also leaving legacy and continuing on. And what I've seen here are very strong themes of pride in your cultural heritage, and that's so important. But another theme I think we've seen tonight is pride in our multiculturalism, and no matter our diversities, we're bringing them together, and that is actually a strength to all of us. So on that note, could you please join me in thanking our amazing panelists? Thank you. Thank you, Brad.